Uh, Three words to describe WSFA. It takes me back to my marketing days because at one time, and probably is still the case, a lot of businesses, but especially TV stations, would come up with positioning lines. And the first one, official one that we came up with since I came to the station, was Alabama's news source, and I actually came up with that, and it's the truth. It was almost on a lark, or maybe even a bet. As I recall, I was doing the weather and sports filling in at Channel 20 for a friend of mine who was I was working the radio side of COV at the time, and then the noon weather job came available, and I came over and did a tape. I did an audition tape, and then Carl Stevens called me back to come talk to him, and I thought, I can't imagine what he wants. Well, he offered me the job, which was really bizarre because, back then, as it is now too, in a lot of ways, there was all the other media in the area, and then there was Channel 12. It was really that big of a step up to do. So I would have to say that it would just be the show business aspect of it, being on the air. I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid, and I got my degree in theater, but I never really pursued it because I realized at some point, well, that's a job that you have to be really good at to make any money. And when I got into television and was able to, be on the air, I never dreaded doing a weathercast. I always enjoyed it. I mean, everything from the pancake makeup and, memorizing parts of it, and you got to write your own script. I mean, it was kind of the show business part when I was in weather. When I got into programming, I got to say it was the NBC relation, because we would go to marketing and programming conferences with all the other NBC stations and get to meet all the stars and hobnob, and it was just the showbiz part of it. Yeah.
So how around the age when you started working at WSFA?
But I did the weather for about 6 or 7 years, and then wanted to get into something else, so I became a promotion producer. And a few years after that, I got the promotion manager job. And then a few years after that, I got the programming job in addition to the marketing manager. As a program manager, when George Wallace died, the service was held at the First United Methodist Church in Cloverdale, which we carried their services on Sunday. And so I went over into the tower, where the broadcast tower, which is right there next to the sanctuary, where you can look down into the sanctuary, for the service. And I can remember very vividly, they were all, right before the service started, they were bringing his body in, and I opened one of the louvered windows to look down into the sanctuary just to see what it looked like, and I noticed 4 or 5 guys in black suits who saw me up there and quickly put their hands in their coats. And I thought, okay, these are, some sort of guards or some sort of police, and so I slowly shut the window. And then a few years after that, I became what was, at the time, it was just called the internet manager. Basically, all the other managers, were in a line, and they said, who wants to do this new internet? And everybody stepped back except for me. When we first got into the digital business, we didn't even have a satellite truck, I don't think, at the time. We had microwave trucks, and all the news you did live had to be line of sight from a microwave truck. Sat trucks came along, and we could do that, but they were expensive. And then we got the phones, and were able to do some rudimentary sort of video live stuff with the phones. And I don't really, you'd have to tell me what it's like now, and what, I'm sure it's vastly different from even that. Do we even still have microwave trucks? I mean, I don't know. I was actually given that title at a time when we already had a website, but I don't know who built it. I think it was part of MSNBC. I think they had their affiliates, NBC affiliates, to do something with them on the web. Their content, added to our website, and we updated it once a day with some sort of a story, because it was a real challenge technologically, you had to know what you were doing from the software. I mean, it wasn't like you do it now. So, that's when I started. And then when it became obvious that it was going to be a news tool, that's when we got serious about it and became the digital content director. And I spent a lot of time, figuring out how things worked and sharing information with other people in the Raycom group or the Liberty group at the time, and training the news people on the software and the programs and things to try to get them on board to collect and news digitally and put it on our website. And that was the challenge. It was new, and it was not something that I could learn from somebody else who came before me. Like I say, when they made me the internet director and said, here, go figure this out. We had to. And so the challenge of that If it had not been for all the yearly and even more often the meetings among all the stations in the group who shared information and shared best practices, we would not have progressed nearly as quickly as we did. I can only speak up to the end of 2017 when I left, but by that time it was already very clear that a growing part of our revenue was going to come from ads on our digital products, and we were getting very serious about spending more and more energy on that. Of course, the friends I made here, and I wish I kept up with them more than I do, but I think when people retire, they'll tell you, for some reason, I don't stay in touch like I should. But yeah, the people, I mean, the lunches in the coffee shop, just hanging around in the halls. Television people are I don't know what it is about us. Radio was kind of the same way in a different way, but we all, at the very basis of our being, have something in common that makes us get along and make friends, and have friends that I still see to this day. But I think about what Marge Payne told me. Marge Payne did Young World. Most people my age remember her doing that. Had my first child, and I remember talking to Marge on the set of Young World, off the set, and saying, Marge, I got to have a 3-month-old now. I'm scared to death that I'm not going to be able to raise her to be a good person. And she said, Mark, if you just enjoy her and all your children as much as you can, they'll be fine. And I think about that with anything. I would tell people here or at any job, if you just make sure you enjoy what you're doing, make an effort to enjoy what you're doing, you'll do a good job, and you better enjoy it while you're here, because if you go someplace else, you're never going to find another place like Channel 12. 3 words that would describe WSFA for me now are a very personal 3 words, and they would just be my favorite job. I hope everybody can say that when they leave.